From this moment on.
Okay, let's get one thing straight before we start this video. I am sick and tired of people speaking so fondly about the Nexus. The Nexus are an overrated schlubfest of NXT fodder that was pushed over to the window to immediately get dealt with by John Cena. And to be honest, that would be the better way they set forth, because other than that, the only person that came out pseudo-successful was Wade Barrett, Ryback, and a bit of Daniel Bryan, even though he's barely even spent a smidge of a month there before turning babyface and having a way more successful career. And just knowing that this was over the bare minimum, over the weakest amounts of Raw, where they were like averaging 2.5 million at that point, I'm shocked that people do a how to book them, how if only John Cena got them over at SummerSlam 2010 in the rip-off Survivor Series match. The show has just been more bad. They were jobbing out to Santino and Vladimir Kozlov, Mark Henry, Big Show. They had the whole thing that got a bunch of fans that were already fans of wrestling back into the product. Now here's my thing. Every time people to bring over to the pipe bomb, into the Nexus attacks, all these BS, guess who's watching the show more? Is it the old fans or the new ones? It's the old fans that were watching probably Ruthless Aggression to Attitude Era. It's not the people that just be like, oh, this looks cool. They'll just see these as a bunch of no names that John Cena got beat up on, and they'll change the channel because these guys have no personality. Other than Wade Barrett being the consensual talker, nobody stood out as much as the rest, other than Justin Gabriel being a pseudo 19-year-old in a 36-year-old body that could do a 450 splash. David Utunga had no charisma except had a good build. Michael Tarver could barely even stand out, other than being a black guy with a hood, looking like he could have been a bodyguard for Prime Time at that time, even though they broke up. Skip Sheffield, that you guys know as Ryback, and of course Heath Slater, that had the most mid-card purgatory failed faction career of his life. Sure, Heath Slater's okay. I don't mind Heath Slater. And I think he had some memorable times in the WWE. His one-man gang gimmick, of course, people know him as 3MB. His little tag team with Rhino. Like, he's done stuff to make sure he had a sustainable tenure in the WWE. And I appreciate that. That's actually a good thing for his career. And I hope he does well on Impact. So this is not just a pure hate. I'm just sick and tired of this. This is the same problem. This is probably the same fake love fans give to factions that didn't really intensify any type of change into the business, like they do for the Flock back on WCW. And there's nothing wrong with the Flock, except they were jobbers. So was Serotonin for TNA that Raven had. Raven didn't need a faction. The guy can talk. He can subsequent his own storylines without needing to look more weaker if he's going to get a babyface over. There's no point of that, and especially when the only guy that you had literally getting over out of the Flock was Perry Saturn. The guy that got in love with a goddamn Bob, not Billy Kidman, and they ended up all being lower mid-carders. At least Daniel Bryan at the end be like, oh, whatever they English do their stupid top 10 list, and it's like, history was written from there, WrestleMania 30, and that's the only thing they can pull out their ass. Even though the guys that were originally part of the Nexus were either jobbers, it had to break up for them to actually do something individually, or barely even stood out from the crowd. Watching Raw was worse with them, and even without them. The Nexus did nothing to interchangeably affect what was going on in the show, and they were just like taken down directly with these storylines that really didn't make that much of a difference. He beat up Bret Hart, that was GM at the time, John Cena, Evan Bourne, John Morrison, Miz, Orton, I guess, and Vince McMahon. That should be a big impact, right? That's going to be something huge to see on TV. Young guys trying to get themselves upper the echelon of the business, trying to actually get somewhere. And that sounds good, right? You got to make that feel episodic. And especially when it's just dubbing over John Cena with a fake firing storyline and he comes back in under a few weeks. So it just makes them look stupid when they keep getting jumped every week until Cena gets hired back. This squad is a bunch of jobbers. And there's no way you can dub this out and rebook this because these guys were just newer into the company. They had no way of getting themselves over. And it's even worse when they're dumbasses and they make the Nexus heels. When you're trying to get a young guy over, you don't make him a heel, especially when he doesn't perceive the reason why he even has that character to begin with. There should be a what, when, why, and how a storyline works. And when you just have a couple young guys coming out proving themselves and they beat up the experienced vets and the authority figure, and the fans are going to boo them, there's only so much you can do with that. And especially when they have nothing other than the Nexus. Or you're either Nexus or against us. And this little English fake Nazi tone that Wade Barrett had, there's nothing you could do with that. You couldn't get them over. You couldn't consistently push them, and especially that the way that they do another heel faction that's full of young talent. There's only so much you can get over because only the experienced veterans are going to be cheered and have a longer future at the end. The same way they did with the New Bloods in the $1 Million Club back on WCW, and that was like 2000. And the most you could get over that, even for Vince Russo's mistakes, he had good intentions of trying to push the young guys. And I bet Vince had the same intentions too, but they read around it the wrong way. This thing sucks. I don't want to hear about another. If we booked the Nexus the right way again, I don't want to hear it. Because there is no potential for this. I'm sorry. This sounds completely pessimistic, but there's no way you can make something good out of this. That's it for me. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the new intro.